Okay, so I'll start with my introduction. Hi, my name's Puja Thiel. I'm a scientist by training, an environmentalist by heart, and a foodie. I consider that a qualification because a lot of people who know me as the biggest foodie they know, if that says anything. I've left my doctor title next to my name just as a warning that the talk may get a little sciencey, but I'll try to make everything bite-sized. It's about food, and I've been involved in making our food and food culture sustainable in many ways through innovation challenges, talks, hackathons, and other channels. I've had the luxury to meet innovators from all over the globe doing amazing work to make our food sustainable. But as you see from the picture, I enjoy food in a lot of other ways as well. So this picture was taken in Norway in July, a couple of Julys ago. Why July? Because July is the beginning of the mushroom and berry picking season, starting with yellow cantareels, they're amazing, and blueberries. And on this particular trip, my husband and I came across an exceptionally lush patch of blueberries. In Norway, it's common to enjoy time in nature and to know the food that grows around you. It's a big hobby. But in fact, this thing, the knowing what grows around you, is possibly the fastest growing trend in food right now. Why? Because making our food local and natural is a huge part of making our food resilient. But that, you might say, is not innovation, or is it? So before I present to you the food system as seen through my eyes and research, I want to invite you to pick a food innovation that you've come across, something that you find important, attractive, necessary. Write it down on a piece of paper or on your computer. Keep your answers private for now. So this food innovation, what do I mean by food innovation? It could be anything. It could be a food service or a food product that you use. It could be a solution that's used in food production, a farm equipment, a food awareness and education program, absolutely anything that you've come across and that you think makes an impact. I'll give you 30 seconds to settle your thoughts and think of something amazing. Okay, I hope you have looked for something. We'll come back to this exercise in about 30 minutes. Great. We'll come back to this exercise in about 30 minutes and see what answers people have. You'll have the time, the next 30 minutes to change your answer as well. And just a word of caution, if you're looking for something very technical, or if you can't find something technical enough, then look closer, because food innovation is all around us. And though we tend to link innovation with IoT and robots, food innovation doesn't always involve robots. So food, of course, it's important to all of us. We eat it. On the surface, it's something we absolutely need for energy and nutrition. but it also brings us around a table every day. Across cultures, across countries, we celebrate around food. It shapes our cultural identities. But it's not just for cultures. Food has shaped the human identity. We learned to grow food 11,000 years ago, 11,700 years ago, during the New Stone Age. And that ability was a key factor in enabling human settlements. So it's not a stretch of imagination to say that our capability to grow food is the foundation of human civilization.
Puja, should we just ask the person who wrote across the screen to delete it? Because I think there was someone who wrote seed bank across the screen. It would be nice for the person to delete it again, kindly. Thank you.
That might not be an option they have, so.
Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, so I've drawn Earth as a ticking time bomb because our food systems have sort of turned it into a time bomb. It's the foundation on which human civilization has managed to emerge. It might be a major reason why the civilization exists no more. Agriculture currently contributes to 26% of all greenhouse gas emissions. Greenhouse gases are not just carbon dioxide, it's methane and nitrous oxide. When it comes to non-CO2 greenhouse gases, agriculture emits more than half of these. These gases contribute to ozone layer depletion, further complicating the climate change problem. The harmful effect of human activity is not just by greenhouse gases. It's also by destruction of terrestrial ecosystems, loss of biodiversity, and loss of organic matter. And food uses a lot of these resources, destroys a lot of these resources right now. We use 37% of the entire Earth's surface to grow food. Now, I warned you in the beginning, it might get a bit sciencey, and I'm going to focus in on numbers just for a moment. 37% of the land's surface. The remaining 63% includes forests, deserts, urban civilizations, wetlands, and lands that we cannot access. Some people might have come across a figure that we use half of all Earth for growing food. Yes, it's half of all land that we can access. But if we include the areas that we cannot access, it's 37%. Why am I saying that? Because numbers are important. It's important to understand the data behind these numbers. It really makes a difference sometimes, oftentimes. The way we use land is problematic, especially with industrial agriculture. With industrial agriculture, we lose 20 hectares. That's 20 soccer fields worth of land every minute. This land has been used for agriculture for ages, for a few years, for a few decades, and it can no longer be used because it's lost its fertility and turned barren. That's what I mean by loss of land. This loss of land is compensated for by deforestation. So from one year to the next, you might see that we're still using 37% of the Earth's surface. But that means we've turned a lot of the land into barren lands, deserts, and we've created new agricultural lands at the cost of forests and other sorts of land. Food also uses 70% of all water that humans use in various activities. In addition, it contaminates water. Fertilizer and pesticide runoff result in huge dead zones. These dead zones have increased from 10 to over 400 in the last 60 years. Dead zones means you've destroyed aquatic ecosystems. And these are just the environmental impacts of food. There are social impacts, huge social impacts. Why? Because agriculture employs more than 1 in every 4 of the world's working people.
Puja, do you
So
think, one second,
people,
Puja, sorry. The seed bank is kind of irritating here. If someone knows who wrote it, please delete it. And don't write across the screen. I cannot delete it from here. And if this doesn't happen, you want to try stop sharing and sharing again, Puja, to see if it disappears?
I can try that.
Nice to get the seed bank stuff out here.
Yes.
That would make a difference to stop sharing and share again. Sorry about that.
No worries.
I hope it disappears that way.
It will.
That's better. Yes, good. Thank you.
It didn't contrast too much with the slides, so I was hoping it wasn't as problematic. Okay, so the social impacts of our food system. 1 in every 4 people are employed in the food system in agriculture one way or another, but agriculture contributes to only 6% of the GDP. In simpler words, it's a lot of work for very little money. It's no surprise that the younger generation does not want to be farmers. They don't want to continue farming if their families have farmed before. And the average farmer is getting older. This is a huge problem if no one's going to grow food anymore. So far we've treated food as, we've discussed food's environmental and social impact as if it's a product, but it's not just a product, we eat it. We relate very closely to food. So what is food doing to us? There's a growing mountain of scientific data that shows the harmful effects of all the toxins that are used in our food supply on human health. And it's not just human health. A lot of research is done on fetuses and unborn babies because as scientists, well, it's an easy methodology. It's easy to follow the effects of food on unborn babies. And the data covers a wide range of diseases: endocrine disruption, cognitive disruption in babies, in unborn babies, so reduced brain function. There's cancers, of course, there's autoimmune diseases, there's especially male and female infertility because of these toxins. If our food continues like this, the future ahead does not look good. In the future, we can expect climate change to make it harder for us to grow food, both directly because of unpredicted weather patterns and extreme climate events, but also indirectly through climate wars and climate refugees. The world's population is expected to grow. It's expected to grow to 9 billion in just 20 years. And a lot of you might have heard we don't have enough food, but that's not true. We have the land, we have the resources, and we have the technology to produce enough food to feed everyone a sustainable diet. We have enough for need, we don't have enough for greed. And with growing economies, more people will switch to richer diets, more meat-based diets. And that's a problem. Our understanding of protein requirements does not make it any easier. So here, just to illustrate, I would like to engage everyone in an exercise using the chat function, if I can find it myself. And I would encourage you to find it as well. The chat function, hands on the keyboard. How much protein do you think we need to meet our basic needs, meet our daily needs?
1日に何グラムのタンパク質が必要かという思っている数字をチャットに書いてくださいということです。1日に必要なタンパク質。
Okay, interesting. So the answers have ranged from 20 grams to 300 grams. And most of you are right. 20 is a bit too low, 300 is a bit too high. But most of these answers are right because depend is what is right. Depending on which site you look at, which recommendations you follow, the range goes for my age, weight, and activity level. The range is from 40 grams to 149. That's absurd. The best suggestions that you have for protein requirement, unless you're an athlete or you exercise extensively, the best suggestion is 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. Now, the RDA, the recommended dietary allowance, assumes that an adult male between 19 years and 70 years weighs 70 kilograms. 0.8 grams per kilogram for 70 kilograms is 56 grams. So you might see the RDA for adult males 56. But if you don't weigh 70, if you weigh 65, it's actually different. This is how off our understanding of dietary requirements are, and a rich diet is very expensive for the environment. The fourth and last challenge that I'm going to talk about, the future ahead, is waste. It's a huge challenge because 1/3 of all food produced never reaches the consumer, never gets eaten. The problem is further exacerbated because worldwide, cultures are not seeing food waste like as a failure the way we used to. So according to the new economic model, the regenerative economic model, it says to live sustainably, human activity has to be within the bounds of social foundation and nature's boundaries. Social foundation means the minimum that we need to fulfill our basic needs. Too little activity, and we'll have hunger, poverty, unmet demand, and injustice in the world. Too much activity, and it's simply unsustainable. The linear economy model might have told us it's okay, but yeah, no, it's not going to work. Too much activity, and we'll put the world in chaos. We'll reach a tipping point with no return. This layered model, looped into a tube, is the donut economy model. On the inside, you have all the needs that we need to fulfill. That's food, health, water, housing, social justice. On the outside of the circle are all the things that we need to avoid: climate change, air pollution, land conversion, biodiversity loss. We have to protect our water resources. Now, in this model, food is just a slice of the donut, but the way I see it, food interacts the most. I'm a food fanatic. Food interacts the most with all elements. Food uses a lot of water. Food uses energy. It's also a source of energy. Food is important for health. Food contributes to each one of the elements that we need to avoid. So, managed sustainably, we could actually use food as a solution to all the elements in the inner circle as well as the outer circle. Let me explain this by going back to basics. We know that plants breathe carbon dioxide and release oxygen. This is what our students, this is what our kids learn. What do plants do with the carbon dioxide? Hint, they're living organisms. They need energy. They make sugars. And what do they use the sugars for? They use sugars as glucose for energy, as fructose in their food, in their fruits and seeds, and as cellulose to build. They use photosynthesis to produce sugars. They don't use sugars, well, maybe they do. They use energy for photosynthesis. They use cellulose to build the plant structure. What we don't learn in textbooks, and what we should learn in textbooks, is foods contribute, they invest 40% of their sugars through their roots and into the soil. The hope is that soil would have these, a living system, bacteria and fungi. Why? Because fungal threads literally connect as root extensions, as extensions of the root system, and they feed the plant with minerals in return for the sugars. Plants need minerals, a lot of them, and they're not always available in a plant available form. And in the surroundings, it's the bacteria and the small animals, such as small invertebrates, such as insects and nematodes, that break down this plant matter. So an active, living, healthy soil feeds the plant. Now, this simple relationship of a plant and healthy soil gives a disproportionate number of benefits. The first is improved plant health, and that actually means higher yields. There's research that shows that this system with healthy soils can give 5 times the produce that we get now. Oxygenated soils solve a huge pain point for gardeners and farmers alike. There are less weeds that thrive in oxygenated soils because they have more competition with the plants that you want to grow. The biggest environmental solution is that this sequesters, this takes away, this uses so much more carbon dioxide and stores it away in the soil. Of course, sustainable agriculture supports biodiversity inside the soil, but also outside it. And the biggest benefit for agriculture is that all that organic matter that we've now put into the soil gives it sponginess. It gives it increased water retention in the soil, which means in dry seasons, your soil, your farm is more resistant to droughts. It's more resistant to water erosion during rains because there's so much structure in the soil. And because this sponge slowly feeds the rivers, you have increased river flow throughout the year. Now you might be thinking, okay, can this be used at scale? Yes, absolutely. Sorry, I missed a point. If we knew what a plant can do what we might be comparing it to technology that claims to have a huge environmental impact. Plants have a huge environmental impact. Can this be used at scale? Yes. The first project was done on soil health, was done by the World Bank back in 1990. The project was to restore this huge land of the Lis Plateau in China, 35,000 kilometers square. That's 1/10 the size of Japan. Lis Plateau is an interesting story. The land was so fertile that it's actually known as one of the cradles of Chinese civilization. And China has a lot of people. It must have been really fertile. But over centuries of agriculture, it was degraded beyond belief, and which also led to mass poverty. The World Bank spent 4 years researching scientific methods as well as traditional knowledge to restore such a wide area of land. Once they figured out how, they managed to bring it back to its original fertility. This project alone pulled 2.5 million people out of poverty. That's half the population of Norway. Since then, restoration projects have been carried out all over the world. An estimated 20 million people pulled out of poverty because of this. The Food and Agriculture Organization alone has 6 projects on this. This is huge. In addition, there are projects like the 1 Trillion Trees Project, which is a collaboration between BirdLife International, Wildlife Conservation Society, and World Wildlife Fund. Why? Because it's great for biodiversity and we need it. But you may be asking, okay, so this is about forests, this is about trees and carbon sequestration. How does this help us grow food? But no, it's not about trees. It's about managing our soil well. Now, the next slide, bear with me. This is some amazing maths. We manage over 5 billion hectares of land for agriculture. 37% of land that we use for agriculture, that's over 5 billion hectares. A lower estimation, a very conservative estimation of how much carbon we can sequester in the soil, turn into organic matter and all that good stuff in the soil, is 10 tons of carbon dioxide per hectare per year. So if we started right now, we would be sequestering, saving, reducing 50 gigatons of carbon dioxide into the soils every year, year after year. It gets better. Current levels of carbon dioxide, atmospheric carbon dioxide, is 416 parts per million. Scientists have told us the safe levels are 350. Historically, we were around 300 parts per million, but scientists have said 350 is still okay. 1 part per million carbon dioxide is 7.76 gigatons of carbon dioxide, which means if you put 7.76 gigatons in the air, you increase carbon dioxide levels by 1 part per million. You take it out of the atmosphere, you reduce it by 1 part per million. Now, if we had a magic wand and we could make all agriculture sustainable right now, we would be sequestering 6.4 parts per million of carbon dioxide, atmospheric carbon dioxide, every year. By 2030, in 10 years, we would have reached safe levels, 350. This is nothing short of magic. Now, you might be looking for innovation. There are programs, they're funding this. This process does make money, just not as straightforward as what we know of innovation. And maybe there are no robots involved. So I'll give you a contrasting example. The next example is, it's innovation. It includes big machinery, but it works completely against nature. I'll let you make your mind about that.
Did you know that the world population increase is estimated at 80 million people per year? Did you know that almost 1 billion people in the world are starving? We don't produce enough food for everybody. The world population needs more food. Because of this, the world would need to increase food production up to 60% to feed 9 billion people by the year 2050. The Western world demands ecologic food, which needs 60% more land per 1 kilo of food. This decreases food production, which is too small already. More and more pesticides are being prohibited, and weed and fungus are getting resistance toward more and more of the remaining ones. For more than 100 years, people have been steaming soil in order to kill it, yet no one has been able to do this in a sustainable way, until now. Soil Steam International is using a patented technology that allows farmers to steam the soil down to 30 centimeters deep on free land. Yes, this means that they can kill nematodes, weeds, seeds, and fungus without using any chemicals. This technology gives the opportunity to grow vegetables, fruits, and berries with very low use of pesticides. By using soil steaming, the farmers can produce ecological vegetables, berries, and fruit in a more efficient and inexpensive way. When steaming the soil, we have learned that you can get up to a 40% larger harvest. We have also learned that many vegetables can be stored longer, and this might have an important impact on the food waste in the world. Trials done by Soil Steam International show that carrots can be stored up to 3 months longer, and this means that the world's waste of carrots can be decreased by more than 1 million tons per year. It's time to think fresh, healthy, and different. It's time to think green, sustainable agriculture. Soil Steam International is offering the world an opportunity to make more food, which is healthier and can be stored longer. It's time to act now.
Okay. So this is an example of innovation. There are better, there are worse, but some innovations leave me with more questions than answers. So they're steaming soil, they're killing all the life in it down to 30 centimeters. What does this do to the rate of land loss we see with current industrial agricultural practices, which is already a problem? If history is anything to go by, the innovation of pesticides and weedicides was advertised without much data on what it does to our health and the health of our planet. Am I suggesting that innovation doesn't have much use when it comes to food? No, absolutely not. So next example is a glorious example of innovation. Back in 2016, when people had just started to understand the difference between blockchain and Bitcoin, blockchain was huge in 2016. The founders of AgUnity launched a social innovation platform to help farmers' incomes. The story is better than what you normally get to know. The idea came out of a hackathon, or more precisely, the desire to win a hackathon with an ideal solution that would meet all judging criteria. They won. After winning the hackathon, the team was urged to bring their idea to life. The problem they were working with is that rural, small-scale farmers are often cheated of their harvest and market prices, leading to food loss, food waste, and insecure incomes for farmers. Their solution was to put a low-cost smartphone in the hands of every small-scale rural farmer. For their pilot project, they spent a year in Kenya to really understand the needs and the limitations of the people they were working with, the farmers. So with the smartphone in hand and the AgUnity platform on the smartphone, farmers can log their harvests, their sales, they can follow market prices, they can track their income, all without any literacy skills required. Basically, the solution does what blockchain does best. It created trust. The result was outstanding. Farmers saw up to a 3 times increase in their incomes already within the first year. What started as a social innovation project led to a huge business opportunity, because now farmers who weren't connected to any other network had money. They needed farm supplies, e-commerce services. They had money, they needed banking services, insurance. AgUnity was very uniquely positioned in that they understood their farmers. They had the network to reach these rural farmers, the bottom billion. And now they invite other collaborators to use the platform and connect with these farmers, provide them services. In the last 2 years, starting from Kenya, in the last 2 years, AgUnity has expanded to many more countries. A very inspiring part of this story was that when AgUnity first reached out to farmers with the solution, they didn't brag about the fancy blockchain technology that was behind AgUnity. They just explained how this worked. But in later visits, The farmers came up to them and said, we've heard about blockchain. We know what you're using for Ag Unity. The point is, it doesn't matter what fancy tool you're using, as long as you have a solution, you're solving an important pain point for your users. Now, there's a lot of food innovation, and food is a huge topic. Farmers' income is one small topic. Food production is another, maybe not so small topic. There are other major trends in food. Hydroponics, aquaponics is a very popular set of innovations. Another one is insects for protein that has really been catching up in the last decade. And food coatings to increase the shelf life of fresh foods. There are regional favorites as well, like fish feed in Norway. But it's almost unfair to imagine that one person would have come across every good idea. So I think you know where I'm getting to. I would like to see the innovations that you've picked. So this is time for a breakout session. We'll run this exercise in small groups to make it manageable and to make it more useful to you. You'll have 10 minutes. Is that right, Peter David?
Sure.
And the group size, I think 10 minutes should be great.
Okay.
I can't see how many people we have now, so
85 people.
85, that's perfect. So we can have groups of 4 to 5 people.
Okay.
And a 10-minute long session where you discuss your innovation and the innovations picked by your group. For each innovation, I have a few questions I'd like you to consider. Discuss if your innovation, the innovation you've chosen, if it's a technological advancement or if it's based on traditional knowledge. For example, insect farming. It's traditional knowledge. It's used in cultures around the world. And basically, the innovators working on insects as protein are bringing that traditional knowledge from one small part of the world to the rest. It's not new innovation. It's not an advancement. It's based on traditional knowledge. I want you to consider if there are any hidden costs. When companies advertise a solution, they leave it for the consumer to figure out the hidden costs. These could be environmental or ethical, health-related, anything. No one's going to tell you that the cocoa beans in your chocolate drink were sourced from a farm that uses child labor. Why am I spoiling chocolate drink for you? Because this is true knowledge. And until and unless you know the challenges that are in the food system, you won't be in a position to solve them. So acquaint yourself with what's going on in the food system. And lastly, try a cost-benefit analysis. What resources, what costs does the innovation have? What impact does it have on your life or on the food system? Not all questions will apply to every innovation, but this is the thought process that should be involved when judging a food innovation. So I hope you're ready. I'll kindly ask Peter David to make the breakout rooms for me.
Just a second, yes, we should definitely do that. We'll give you 60 seconds to come.
And
back.
one last thing, if you don't have an innovation, don't be shy. It's all about exchanging knowledge with each other. You will learn in this exercise.
Okay, so I'm going to start the sessions now and we'll come back automatically in 10 minutes time. So enjoy saying hello to a lot of people from around the world also. Hello, are you just the two of you there? I had a help request. Did you call for me?
Hello.
Did you send me a help request?
Yes, Peter-san.
Yes.
I cannot see any any
Anyone
voices
here?
or yes. I think we cannot communicate with each other. We cannot hear anything.
No one is here? Katakam or Nishi-san?
Narayana. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, should be okay. Try. Katana and Nishi-san, are you there also? Or?
Yes.
Maybe I'll find some more people for your group. What group are you in? Okay. Yes, let me see. Hello? Are you alone there or what is the problem? If anyone would like to join as an unable to, just let me know. I can assign you to a room. See, there are 17 people here in the main room. So if you would like to be assigned to a room, just let me know. Shahi, I can reconnect you, yes, to one of the groups. Did you call me here? I think some of you may have joined through the online, from the website. Without an app, then it's sadly impossible to join the workshop, so we should have thought about that. So we have another 15 seconds and it'll be, the breakout sessions will be closed. But we had a problem, Puja, because I think some people may have joined from the website and not downloading the app. And then you cannot join a workshop. So I was not able to, there were about 17, 18 people who could not join a workshop.
Ah, okay. I didn't know about that.
Thought about that.
That's good to know for next
Some
time.
people had unstable internet connection. Yeah, so it didn't work that well in all groups. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, I think we are now back together, the people who are here still. So you can go on, Puja.
Okay, so breakout sessions didn't work for everyone. We know from previous experience with Nellis events that when with global events, language does become a problem sometimes. But I see in the comments, someone has written great experience. So could I invite Amit to share what you discussed, or anyone who would like to?
Yes, please unmute yourself and speak up, yes. Share a bit of what happened in the breakout session.
I think we have time for 1 or 2 people to share, so.
Yeah, go ahead, don't hold back.
Hello, good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
In our group, it takes few minutes. It took a time to understand each other, like from which country we are first, and we try to understand their languages. So it took a bit time to understand each other. Then we have discussed we were the group of 4. We have discussed about the food was a condition in Japan, and like we were doing it, and we were trying to just come up with some ideas, and it just came back in from there to here. So overall, it was actually the innovative idea about food. It got behind, but understanding each other, taking their ideas and sharing the views, it came first. It was just a icebreaker type of a thing, and I really enjoyed. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. That's great. Anyone else who would like to share any innovative idea that they discussed and realized the hidden costs of?
Pampori is raising a hand. Do you want to speak up?
Yes, please.
Hi, this is Yes, very good afternoon to everyone. It's good to see here this webinar. Very nice, very great. I'm from India, Kashmir, India. Okay. So in our break group, in this group, we were 3 candidates there, participants. One was from Singapore, the other was from Japan, and me from India. So we were, initially it was the language problem to communicate with each other. And with that, then ultimately one was from engineering field. He was from IT expert from Japan. Then one from other field, and I am from animal science field. Okay, so very little was discussed about, you can say, the innovations in the agriculture and the food, because none was an expert in that, I mean, faculty. But well, it was well to introduce ourselves. We had some discussion about the pandemic in other countries, in our own countries and the situations. that was there. But nice to see this, and I'm really grateful to the host to you have land this. I mean, you have taken a lead in this. This great to see. I congratulate you for hosting this webinar.
Thank you.
There were a couple of more people who raised their hands. I can see, Puja, do we have any more time, or how does it look?
Yes, we have 15 minutes left for the session. Any questions, any thoughts you'd like to share? This is the time.
Okay, Katakam?
Yeah, sorry for the delay. Actually, I joined just 1 hour before. So overall session is very good. Mr. Puja Thiel from, I don't know, maybe...
Planet Earth.
Where it is, madam?
Planet Earth.
Planet Earth. Okay, I am from India. So I am the project officer in urban solid waste management. So it is a very nice session who is conducted. Thanks to everyone. Actually, right now in not only world, right now India also facing the food shortage problem. So, but one thing I told to ma'am and sirs, actually in India facing the so many food problems. Maybe we don't have sufficient cold storages, stocking stock sheds. But right, people, all our people, rich people is the wasted the food. It is the major problem to us. So not only India, maybe worldwide. So I think it is a very good session, maybe in this COVID-19 pandemic situation. So Puja Thiel and Peter David sir, excellent session conducted today. Thank you from my side.
Katakam, that's a very, very good point. The injustice in how our food is distributed is a deeper level of the food problem, of a major challenge that the food problem has. And it's just not even because we're not producing enough. As you said, the rich waste more than the poor get. And I've seen some initiatives, especially with the Black Lives Matter campaign worldwide, of people showing that how they grow their food locally. Yes. Part of it is realizing you have a right to food and making it happen, really. So it does require some entrepreneurial thought, some community engagement. But there are people who've just started their own farms because they don't have access to fresh food, fresh, nutritious, safe food. Growing it yourself is innovative for these communities. In the context, that is the innovation that we need.
Thank you.
There's a question: how can molecular biology be useful to ensure global food security?
Oh, wow, that's a difficult one. I came across an article like a few years ago, which said, so as a scientist, I've seen work in the lab, and the part that disheartens me most is how removed research oftentimes is from the needs of society, how unapplicable a lot of research work can be. And I came across this really beautiful article written by somewhere in the States, a professor in botany, who said, we need to change this. We need to stop working on things that don't really lead to innovation, don't really lead to solutions. We need to start working on what the society needs, what answers the society needs. I can't come up with a good example right on the go, but how does molecular biology relate? Well, there's a lot of good stuff that's come out of it. And now this is very controversial. There are good GMOs and bad GMOs that have come out of molecular biology. What you're doing in GMOs is you're mutating the regular genotype of a plant or animal, and there are good GMOs that are more sustainable than the traditional variety, and there are bad ones. So how does molecular biology relate? Well, it relates like everything else. There are good policies, there are bad policies. There are good innovations, there are bad innovations. There's good science and there's bad science.
Puja, maybe we have some questions from our Japanese audience who want to ask in Japanese, so I can translate. 日本語でももしもご質問があれば、通訳いたします。I can translate between Japanese and English if anyone has a question. Actually, there are a lot of good questions in the chat also. その何かご質問があれば、日本語でも大丈夫です。Okay. What are your thoughts on novel sources of protein such as insects? Puja.
Personally, I'd rather not share. Looking at what I've seen in innovation is I realize there's the biggest hurdle to using insects as protein is the yuck factor. Psychological.
What do you mean by that? Can you explain that?
Many people, I'm sure many of us here just do not see ourselves eating insects because we've always associated it to something disgusting, so never as food. And that is really the biggest challenge in adapting insects as protein. Insects are an animal source of protein. So the amino acid score, the protein quality is high. There's absolutely no problem in that. There are social and environmental issues. So I think it's grasshoppers in Ghana. I might be wrong about both things, so don't hold me to that. But there are some insects that are cultured in very bright lights. And these lights cause blindness. So it's a product that gives money. People want to produce it. But the people who grow it, the farmers and the children who grow it, end up being blinded by the lights that they need for the insects. And since this is happening in a far-off land, no one really cares. So there's a huge social and ethical problem there. We just need to know what goes into our food, who makes our food, what do they go through to make it sustainable. So I'd rather be eating the overload of zucchinis from my garden than insects.
Okay.
There are two participants who've raised their hands.
Okay, go ahead and speak up.
Yes, I am again Pampuri from India, Kashmir, India. Okay, I want to just add it over here. This one, the point that I believe that there is a good quantity of food in the world available. 9 billion as far as stats going on. But the thing is the access to the food. One thing, access to the food, and then your choices. Just you were talking about the insects. It's a good source of protein, but how far it is accepted by the people? Okay, you have a protein there, but whether the people who are taking it, they are choosy to it, will they accept this thing? That's important. Secondly, you see, access is again, you have you need to have some change in your food habits, in your food preferences. Rather, I can say food preferences. You need to have a change. See, in our Indian conditions, what is there? You will take, say, there is a Punjab, a very good state, which is very high in agriculture. It produces rice, but it doesn't utilize rice. It utilizes the wheat. It takes roti, okay, bread. It doesn't take rice, but it produces good quantity of rice. This is where you have to change your, the diet practices, your choices. In our other states of the country, they do produce the wheat, but they do eat rice. They do produce wheat, but they will prefer rice. So how you will, this is very, I think, this is the need of our, that you change your choices. You have access to food which is locally produced, okay? Yes. And then you have access to distribute globally. But that's very important. You have some areas, some pockets in the world or in the country itself where you have access food, but you don't have the distribution system to carry it to the poor. That is the need of it. That's what I want to add it over here.
Yes, that's a very good point. Pampuri, I'd like to add to that. that I don't know what policies shape this trade within a country, but I know that internationally there are trade treaties that put more air miles in our food. Why? Because when you produce a food and you ship it, the shipping costs are not included in the food industry's cost assessments, environmental assessments. No one's taking responsibility of those air miles. And that makes our food system way more unsustainable. So local food is the way forward. You had a point about diet. Diet is evolving. We see that in Europe, a lot of people are moving towards vegan and vegetarian foods. Vegan still includes chocolate, so it's not all sustainable. And I think this idea of having locally produced food would help in the progress towards wheat being produced where it's consumed, rice being produced where it's consumed. That's a change we need to see, and we need people like you to put this point forward. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
We have 4 minutes left. We have 4 minutes left only, and we really want to finish on time. So if you have concluding remarks, any questions, actually the chat will be saved. So if you have something you want to leave, I can share it with Puja later on if you leave your question in the chat. And if you want any kind of feedback, of course, your email address as well. But Puja, concluding remarks, what would you say at the end of this? Why is innovation not enough? What is the issue?
Wait a minute, I haven't finished my presentation yet.
Go ahead then.
I
that is
do
your
have concluding
remarks. Good.
On that. So my concluding remarks are, when we talk about innovation, and this is especially for people who work with food innovation, innovation is a fancy word. It does give us the potential to do more than we can even imagine, kind of the Henry Ford with car versus bike example, for those of you who are familiar with it. So innovation can give us something that we did not imagine. But right now, there are solutions that we can imagine that have an impact, and these are perfectly natural, maybe don't involve big machines, and we sort of need to give them priority. Why? Well, let's compare innovation and planting trees as stocks on the market. Innovation is a high risk, potentially very high reward. But planting trees and sustainable agriculture is a very low risk and a guaranteed rather high reward. So if you had to put your money and these were stocks, which one would you pick? I really want you, the one message I want you to take home is life sustains life. Let's use natural solutions for nature's problems. And lastly, there have been really good questions. I would love to connect and just keep the discussion going. I'm available on the Nellis platform. So if you join the Nellis community, that would be perfect. Otherwise, you can also find me on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Puja, there were some people asking me to be in touch with you. Can I leave your email here, or what do you think?
I would put my LinkedIn there. The name is Unique.
Yes.
Yes, I can. I don't remember the link off the top of my head.
If you search for that, yes. Go ahead. Oh, you found it there?
No, exactly what you said. If you search for my name, Puja Thiel, it's an Indian first name and a German last name.
On LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn. The only hit is me, so feel free to find me there.
Okay. And thank you so much. I think we should be punctual here. I hope you enjoyed the webinar. As you may know, the years from 2021 to 2030 is a decade of ecosystem restoration dedicated by the United Nations, which certainly also means nature-based solutions, restoring the soil, rejuvenating living beings in the soil, all the reasons that Puja explained us today. So a lot of things, interesting things will happen in this field. So do be in touch. And if you have any questions, feedback, leave it in the chat box and it'll all be saved and we can look at it later on. So thank you so much for being here today.
In response, we will look through all the comments and questions in the chat and maybe even share answers to some of them.
Thank you, Puja.
Thank you, ma'am.
everyone.
Stay safe, stay blessed.
Same to you.
Bye-bye. So anyone who wants to leave something in the chat, we'll keep it open for a few minutes, and then you can do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Today or tomorrow also same meeting, sir.